Good morning, guys, and welcome to the Coffee Shop Project Dallas. Today, as usual, we're checking out 3 coffee shops, but changing up the model a little bit to focus on the 4 components of coffee tasting. Before we begin, I'd love if you would consider subscribing for new episodes of the Coffee Shop Project and following my Instagram. It's just L Grayson. And without further ado, let's head to our first shop. Coffee Shop Project Texas. This is our first episode after finishing our Tennessee unit, and I decided that some changes needed to be made. After going through 3 weeks of Tennessee and just trying 3 drinks, saying I like it and moving on, I knew that I needed to become more educated. So I ordered the book Craft Coffee, and I've been reading through it, and I've been reading a lot about coffee tasting. So for this episode in Dallas, I've decided that I'm gonna be ordering an Americano and then still continuing with the barista's choice because I like the nice personal note. But what we're really gonna be focusing on is the tasting of the different roasts. And if you're following along in the book at home, this starts on page 203, where it talks about having a coffee tasting party. So if you wanna grab your book, grab some coffee, we can have a coffee tasting party, and let's dive into it. So there are 4 components when it goes into tasting coffee: body, sweetness, acidity, and then overall flavor notes. So when you're tasting for body, you take a sip, you move your tongue around, and you're really looking to see if it's gritty, is it milky, is it watery? We're gonna find out. I would definitely say that has a more watery feel to it. And now we're gonna move on to sweetness, where we're gonna take the lid off, breathe the aromas in, and then do another sip just to really taste for it. I would say it smells sweet in like a chocolatey kind of way, but we're gonna affirm that with another sip. I would definitely say the sweetness is there and more of the smell than the flavor, because honestly, I find the coffee to be more acidic where it hits my tongue on the sides and in the back, but that could be just me. And then finally, you taste for flavor notes. So we're gonna do one final sip and really think about it. The overall composition really reminds me of the Hilton Hotel coffee. It's definitely a light roast with some acidity, and I love pouring a little bit of cream in it. Magnolias was a fabulous way to start Dallas, Texas. We covered the basics of coffee tasting, but now we're gonna build on that about a quarter of a mile away at Ascension Coffee. Come on. Ascension. This is a coffee shop that is a local chain in Dallas, and it was highly recommended on all of the websites that I checked out, and it definitely lived up to my expectations. They had an awesome breakfast menu, which I had some eggs and bacon from. I would definitely have it again if I was staying in Dallas. And then they also had a really cool coffee lineup featuring a lot of different craft beverages. I decided to go for 4. I know I was just gonna do 2, but I liked that they had pour-overs, because when I was at Magnolias a minute ago, I couldn't really taste the flavor notes, and with their pour-overs, they also know all of the flavor notes, so I can actually taste it myself. And then if I can't quite figure it out, I have a little cheat sheet. So we're gonna start with those. Then we're gonna move on to the Americano. And what I really wanna focus on in the Americano is, does it taste the same as the Magnolias one to me? And if it does, I probably know that an Americano is just kind of a plainer, darker roast without any really sweetness. And then finally, we have a Cortado. I've never had that before, and we're gonna get more into it in a minute. But first, we need to try these pour-overs. First of the 2 pour-overs we're gonna be checking out today is called the Artie. And when we're drinking this, we're looking for blueberry, chocolate cake, overall fruitiness, and bright acidity. So we're gonna start by smelling it. It smells like a blueberry syrup. I have no idea how they made it so sweet smelling without any sugar, and I hope the flavor holds the same standard. It really does. You can taste it almost like blueberry syrup, and then the acidity is there too. It's really powerful. It's really fun and summery. Now we're moving on to the Campfire Roast, which is gonna have cherry, chocolate, toffee, and cedar nuts. We're gonna start by smelling it. To be honest, if I didn't have my little cheat sheet over there, I probably wouldn't have figured it out. I probably would have just been like, oh, it smells dark. But because I have the cheat sheet, I could see where the cedar could be coming through, but I'm curious to see what it's actually going to taste like. It definitely has a watery composition, and again, if I hadn't read the cheat sheet, I would have just been like, oh, it's a dark cup of coffee. I like it because I know that it's a darker roast, and I enjoy darker roasts, but honestly, I can't taste a ton of the flavors coming through. Moving on to our Americano, I'm gonna take a sip, and then I'm gonna put my little chart filled out up on the screen so you can read it at your own pace versus having to hear me say the same things over and over again, because that's boring. We're gonna take a sip. My favorite part of that was the smoothness of the brew, and then also that it reminded me a little bit of the Frothy Monkey from Tennessee. I like the 12 South Roast, and I can see hints of it. It's not the same, obviously, but I can see similarities in there. We're on to our grand finale drink that I have been waiting to try for like 20 minutes now, the Cortado, which I think I'm gonna love because it's 2 espresso shots with just a little bit of steamed milk on top, so it's not too dark, but it's not too sweet. Right up my alley. Let's jump in. You can taste the milk, but it's not overpowering, and what you're really tasting is almost a sweeter espresso shot. I'm gonna start making these at home to kind of just take in the morning for quick caffeine, and stick around for when I do that on an episode of the Coffee Shop Project at home. I really enjoyed my time at Ascension today. If I were a local, I'd come back all the time. I liked that it was a little bit more upscale and sit down than a regular coffee shop, but not so fancy that you couldn't pull your laptop out. You could definitely sit for a long time, enjoy the atmosphere, and have some great food. Shop of the day, Davis Street Coffee, and we're actually outside. So something really cool about this shop is they've literally taken advantage of every inch of their property to make more cool seating that kind of matches with the vibe of the Art District. Right now I'm sitting in an old bus, and with the breeze it feels amazing. It would be boiling in the summer, but right now as like fall starting, it feels really good. We have 2 drinks here today. We have the Dominican Roast, which is supposed to have fruity notes, and then we also have a chocolate milk cold brew. I've played with making chocolate milk coffee, and mine always turns out kind of gross, so I'm hoping that they're gonna top it because they actually roast their own cacao in-house. This place screams craft coffee. I went in, talked to the barista. The first thing he said to me was, what do you like? We talked about that for a little bit, and then he pulled in another cashier so he could spend like 5 minutes telling us all about the story of the shop. So this is definitely a high note to end on. We usually save our more like fun, sugary drinks until the end, but I'm so excited to try this chocolate milk cold brew because I've tried to do things like it and kind of failed at it, and I think theirs is super cool because they actually roast their own cacao nibs in-house like their coffee, and they're doing this because they think craft chocolate is about 10 years behind craft coffee, and they want to be one of the pioneers in the industry of it when it blows up. So I have really high expectations, and I think this is going to be delicious. That chocolate has such a rich flavor. When you swish it around in your mouth for a little bit and really just take in all of the rich flavors, you can kind of taste 2 parts. You can taste the really rich chocolate that's almost like a cold hot cocoa, and then you also have the cold brew, and they come together to make this creamy, smooth drinks. But there are also little bits of chocolate in there that add to the texture and flavor, and it's a super fun combo. I'm not gonna say I like it. I love this, and I'm gonna learn to make it for you guys. If you count the hotel coffee that I had before I started filming this, we are on cup 10 of the day, so I've definitely had more caffeine than I really should for my heart. Kind of jittery because of it, but it doesn't matter. We are gonna end on a high note with a bean from the Dominican Republic roasted here that's supposed to have a nice fruity flavor to it. We're gonna start with the smell. You can definitely smell the sweet fruitiness, and now it's time for a taste. Remember, we're looking for body that's watery or milky, floral flavors, acidic notes, and then finally just overall flavor notes. Let's get into our last cup. The body's definitely quite watery. It's a nice consistent texture building on that. It does have some fruity notes. I can't really put a finger on what it is, and honestly at the end of the day I taste some like woody undertones. Overall it tastes like a well-crafted cup of black coffee, and definitely a high point to end on. Davis Street Coffee was such an inspiring way to end the Coffee Shop Project Dallas. It really lives up to their motto, don't only consume create. They're chocolatiers, they're roasters, they're bakers. It has a little bit of everything and an amazing ambiance that matches the art district here in Dallas. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I would love for you to consider subscribing down below. Next week, we're hopping to another city in Texas, and starting this Tuesday, we're also gonna have little episodes of the Coffee Shop Project at home, Tuesdays and Thursdays, learning different tricks of the trade back home in my kitchen, and I hope to see you there. Bye guys.